Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas expressed by the guest, myself, or commenters may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It is the state of giving or receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to more complex form. So what is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to more complex human being living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is simulcast live every Wednesday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, from the Enlightenment Evolution Hour page, Matrix Minds Facebook page, and the ET Whisperer YouTube channel. It is also redistributed from the Forbidden Knowledge News Network and Conscious Awakening Network. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I'm your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. I want to welcome you all to this beautiful Wednesday, and what a beautiful Wednesday it is. It is the 12th of June. Holy moly. Next Wednesday I will be in California, so I won't be able to do it live. This week we have an amazing guest, Tyler Ellison. I'm going to be bringing him in just a few minutes. We've got a lot to talk about, guys. Before we do that, to some of your great joy and excitement and others horrible dismay, I must do the announcements for the week. No show announcements, no network announcements. Besides, check out their talk, Instagram Live. Go to Instagram, then type out @ or ampersand. No, it's not an ampersand. Sorry, it's an @ sign. @ out their talk. And that will take you to his show. He's on hiatus now. ET Whisper announcements, there are a bunch. If you guys already know, we're about 2.5 weeks into our 4-week course, Galactic Ambassadors. We've already got 2 channelings posted in the course. You can join at any time. There is still, I want to say, 2 or 3 Q&As left. For the entities that are channeled. We get a chance for everyone who listens to it to ask questions, which will be really amazing. So you can always check that out. Then 2 of the bigger announcements are the things that are coming the closest to us. And the very first one is on the 20th to 24th. This is why I'll be in California, Mount Shasta, the very northern end of California, up in the beautiful mountains, the Lemurian Mountains. A lot of people call Mount Shasta Lemurian Mountains because that's where the last Lemurian civilization, known from so many different channelers, architects, understand the energy behind all of that history in Earth. That's where a lot of them say that the last place was, and there are a lot of great presenters, including some of the ones we've had in the last few weeks, including the one we have this week, Mr. Tyler Ellison, and including our dear friends Wendy Kennedy, Reuben Langdon, Heather Taylor, our good friend Lisa Royal Holt, her husband Ron Holt will be there also, as well as Jamie Price and a lot of other great presenters. So there are still online tickets, and I want to tell all of you guys this. Some of you didn't know that this was a live stream. Some of you may have jumped in and saw the price and said, I don't know if I can do that. So for this week only and for our people only, if you go to the Lemurian Life Expo and you put in coupon code Crystal, which I'll put up right there, if you put that in, you'll get a very deep discount, and you can buy some streaming tickets. We just have 1 week until that show starts, or till that event starts. And with this ticket from the show, with this specific coupon code, you can get a good discount. All right, guys. So that is going to be from June 20th to 24th. Workshops, C5s, all sorts of cool stuff. And then there's a live stream. And then next month after, I am going to be in Madison, Connecticut, on the beach, on the ocean, with also the same guest that we've got here tonight, who's going to be in Mount Shasta. I believe me and Tyler are the two people that are going to be in both Mount Shasta and the Madison, Connecticut, which is an amazing sync. But also, this is going to be a very intimate experience, 3 days. All of the price includes the food and also the lodging. We stay on one gigantic resort that's right on the beach. It's going to have all the amazing presenters you see here. Glenn, the guy who's creating this, amazing dude. He's been on the show. Check his episode out too. Really great event, guys. So check that out. And you could go to there at the StargateCrusader.com to check that out. And I forgot the last website was LemurianLifeExpo.com. You can go there and check that out. And then the last announcement for the ET Whisperer is the Hucalo Gathering Leaders. This is the Human Colonies with Jim Charles, a great friend of ours. Myself and Kalina will be there. Many of you know our dear friend too, Karen Newman, was what her name was once. She changed her name to Krishna Priya Newman, and she is going to be there. She was part of one of our channel panels, quite a few of them online. She was also a part of our Enlightenment Evolution Network long ago when we had 14 shows a week on the Enlightenment Evolution Network. It was a while ago, but yeah, and she's a great lady. And then outside of the ET Whisper announcements, there is the channel panel 2025. This is already selling tickets. We already have infinite amounts of online tickets, but we do have finite live tickets, 700 seats. And 100 seats per workshop. And there's a workshop for everyone you see here on screen. And 3 days in the main hall will be all the channelers. We are going to still be inviting anywhere between 8 and 12 new channelers who will be announced within the next couple weeks, we're hoping. But these are keynote presenters, and these presenters have no conflicting schedules. If you bought everybody's workshop, you'd be able to see them all. Those will be outside of the main room. Those are in small breakout rooms. And then we have all the channelers in the big hall. If you buy an online streaming ticket, you're getting only what's in the hall, not the workshops. The workshops are only for in-person. The early bird special is done. It was done yesterday. So it is full price now, which raises both tickets about $80 or more. But we have all these great people. This is in Sedona, January 3, 4, and 5. And there is an FAQ. So if you have questions about it, go to that frequently asked questions tab, the FAQ tab, and tons of information is there. This is going to have Daryl Anka, myself, Jamie Price, Daniel Scranton, Lisa Royal Holt, Wendy Kennedy, my sunshine and beautiful love, Kalina Angel, Sean Swanson, and anywhere from 8 to 12 more channelers. And we will be making announcements as it goes. Tickets are on sale now, thechannelpanel.com. All one word. If you guys are interested, check it out. That's enough for announcements. I could, you know me, guys, I can talk about all these events for a lot longer than I do because I'm excited about each and every one of them. And you shouldn't see my mug talking on the on the screen there. How about that one? All right. So I could talk about it forever, but instead I want to talk to you guys about the man of the hour, the evolution hour tonight. Tyler, dear friend Tyler Ellison, a good guy. I love him. He's a friend of our show. He's a friend of the ET Whisperer, and many of you guys know him. Tyler's a cosmic channel for extraterrestrial being named Ryoka, the Sasami, and is a universal healing Tao master, instructor, as well as licensed acupuncturist. Tyler began studying magic and extraterrestrials in 2011. He studied under Grand Master Mantak Chia at the Senior Universal Healing Tao Instructor Loren Johnson and Ceremonial Magick Damien Echols. I could tell you a ton about Tyler himself, but instead I just want to bring him in and let Tyler talk about Tyler. How are you doing, brother? Welcome to the show tonight. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob, for having me. Great to be here. And yeah, I love my bio. I forgot what it sounded like. So fantastic to hear it. I'm like, oh wow, that's yeah, I do those things. Excellent. Yeah, it's a good like self reminder. So thank you, man, for the great intro, and thanks for having me here.
Yeah, no worries. All right, we do have some issue with sound. Some
Oh,
person is saying,
am I sounding fuzzy?
no, just I think it needs to be a little louder. And if you can let us know, smiling, dancing girl, if that sounds a little better, let us know. So you've been on the show before and you've kind of told your story. So why don't you give us a quick recap on first, the influences on your life, what created the Tyler that was, influenced in childhood and in your younger years to make you be open to having the story. And then tell us just a little bit about your story of how you got to be a channeler and all the other things you do.
Hell yeah. Thanks, man. That's a great question. I like that you tied it back into like what influenced all this. I think media influenced it in a lot of ways. Books, certain cartoons I would watch. I was really into, when I was a kid, I was really into shows about sort of people that could control the elements. Avatar, The Last Airbender was great. I was really into the cartoon Teen Titans, where it's like just teenagers with superpowers. I was really into the Harry Potter books, Chronicles of Narnia. And I think from a young age, I really craved this sort of living fantasy world. It really was a driving desire within me that I didn't really even notice until I got older, and I created one for myself, with this life of channeling and magic and alchemy. I mean, it's like, it's exactly what I wanted as a kid. But I was just told as I got older that, all that stuff's not real. It doesn't matter. But I think the more I kept that door open, the more open I became to the spiritual path and to what was possible with metaphysics and esotericism. My biggest passion when I was a kid was art. I really liked to draw and to illustrate, and I would make like hyper detailed illustrations. Even as like a young child, I'd be in art class and they were like, sketch this thing on the table, and I'd like sketch the thing, but I'd sketch the whole art room like in the background with like all these little details. And I liked Legos when I was a child. I liked building. I liked creating. So the reason I'm saying all that is, I mean, I think of my life now as my Lego sculpture, if you will, right? I'm like, I even though life has its unexpected curveballs, I try to be as a trigger word, Masonic as possible, right? Like, how do I build this thing? Because life's like Tetris or like Jenga, right? It's like pieces just fall, and you have to be like, how do I arrange this so it fits with everything and benefits me and those around me as the end result, So yeah, fantasy novels and fantasy movies and cartoons, all of that was my biggest influence as a kid. And I was really drawn to religion. I was brought up in the Catholic Church. I had like a weird fascination with like the spirit world and heaven and hell and purgatory. I was fascinated with it. And then when I was a kid and I found out there's all these Bible books that weren't a part of the Bible, like the Apocrypha, I was like, wait, there's like secret Bibles? Like, what the like, you need to tell? I was like, I don't know how old I was. I was very young, but I remember being like, I need to know what this is. I remember my cousin was like, yeah, there's like the Book of the Dragon that they took out. I'm like, what the hell are you saying to me? I need to know.
Why would they take out a book that's called the Book of the Dragon, right?
Yeah, right. Maybe it's too edgy for I don't know. Actually, the stuff they did include were like how to treat your slaves and like how to stone someone to death. So I don't know. Maybe if they took the Book of the Dragon out, it must be real bad,
Yeah, they kept some hardcore stuff.
Yeah. And then so as I got older, I got really into the party scene. I liked being seen as kind of an edgy, rebellious person. That was like my ego mask when I was a kid. It's still that now, but I don't wear it as dominantly, right? It's kind of in the background. But so as I got older, I got into partying. I got into the the naughty things people aren't supposed to like, but secretly do like, and make movies and music about and everything. So I got into all that stuff. And it just like essentially the psychedelic power just opened me up to, how would I describe it? A familiar place that was like completely alien and like brand new. But it showed me that there's so much going on behind the scenes. And it was confirming all of those childhood knowings and fantasies and dreams. So it just got to a point where it was like, well, okay, I'm being told by like Western culture I have to be like prosperous and abundant and a provider and all these things. And I'm like, well, how do I take this like mystical world that seems to not fit in with our culture and the values of our culture and like put them together, right? So that was a driving force for me. It's what led me into acupuncture medicine ultimately. But as I got older and was, tripping and exploring the cosmos sort of haphazardly, I started seeing UFOs while not tripping, while sober with multiple people. And it was just undeniable. And I took a crack at channeling because I was really inspired by, the great Darryl Anka. I was deeply inspired by Bashar's teachings. Without him, I wouldn't be channeling. I wouldn't know what channeling is probably without him. So
yeah, he was around the internet everywhere from 2000, probably 7 to 14. There were people just uploading clips left and right. There was probably thousands of different combinations.
Dude, I just want to praise the fact, like, I know that they're rightfully so protective of the material, right? Copyright and all that. But I do have to say, I'm so happy they let that happen because for a while, it was like having the Library of Alexandria on YouTube.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like anything you wanted to know from that perspective, there's like a video for it. And it was like nuts. It was so nuts. I remember I would videos would find me. People would make all these compilation clips of like his different talks to like cool music. It almost felt like TikTok culture before TikTok, but more long form. It was just like cool music with Darryl Anka's channeling. So
they made art with it, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think metaphorically and literally, like that for sure was happening. And yeah, it was really great to see that YouTube was this maybe unintentional art gallery of everything he had done in a certain way. So it's funny being nostalgic for that because I haven't thought about that in a long time, but that's definitely there.
Well, I remember when I used to see it, I used to be like, even to this day, I'm like, there are some people who've contacted me and showed me the parts of my channeling that they've integrated in music and art and all sorts of stuff, which I'm always grateful. But I was like, man, if a tenth of the people did that with the channeling that I had, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere on YouTube without bumping into some of it. You know what I mean? It was just that crazy widespread. Esther Hicks too was another one. I didn't even know about her until like 2014, but as soon as Kalina told me who that was and showed me some of her channeling, then all of a sudden I started bumping into that everywhere too. So yeah, it was definitely a piece of time in that era, wasn't it?
Definitely. And it was his Mechanics of Channeling course. I only recently found out it was called that because I saw it on YouTube. So I was just like, oh, it's a how to channel class from Bashar. But it was that training that got me into the channeling state very successfully. And I just ran with it ever since. I pretty much I had the UFO thing. And like simultaneously while that was happening, I was like getting hungry for essentially omniscience. I don't know what else to describe it as, right? I wanted to know everything, like, and kind of for like personal reasons, but also mystical reasons, right? I wanted to know everything so I could know how to navigate and move through the world. But also I wanted to know everything so I could really contextualize what reality is and move accordingly, right? So it was like for personal gain, but also for this deep need to know what our place in the universe is. Because I feel like without that knowledge, things are kind of vague, and then a person's left with their best guess as to how to move and operate. But I felt with that omniscience and an all-knowing power, it would be like an experience. Like it wouldn't just be a belief. It'd be like, I've seen this. This is what it is. And now I'm going to build my life around this undeniable objective truth, right? So that was what inspired my original desire for channeling. And I used the Mechanics of Channeling course on YouTube at the time. And then I just started channeling dream characters, beings that visited me in my dreams. I was like, what do they know? Like maybe they have the answers to my healing or my deep questions about the universe. And I channeled these dream characters. They were essentially beautiful female angels that came to me on a beach. And like they were like glittering pixels of light that sort of spiraled around me, and then they densified as these beautiful women. And I thought it was just Earth women, and we're on the beach talking, and then we're in a beach house, you know, kind of a patio environment. And I asked them before I wake up from this dream, I'm like, will I ever see you again? And I can't remember what they said, unfortunately. It was along the lines of yes. But then they both just dematerialize into light beings, and I get like blasted with this mega dose of unconditional love. And I like was like, oh my, it was like a heart ejection of like pleasure. I was like, oh my God. And then I wake up with the feeling. And like I like Dracula fucking excuse my language. Can I curse on here?
Yeah, you can curse, just don't use any YouTube no words.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sure. So I like Dracula style, just like raise up out of my bed, and I'm like being propelled by this loving feeling, and I'm just like, oh my God, like good morning. What the heck? So it was so impactful. I was like, I got to channel these beings. I got to know like who they are and why they showed up, and their connection led me to channel my first entity, Mira of the Pleiades, and I channeled her for a while, at least over a year. And then I took a little break from channeling. I was going through school and like relationship stuff. So I was like, I need to pause this because, you know, life's asking a lot of me. And then I started hanging out with some people that were a part of Andrew Bartz's community. They were local to Connecticut. And these guys were like, I don't even know how to describe them. Like Ghostbusters, but The Matrix and like peyote. You know, that's how I describe these guys. Like really powerful, really psychedelic, and like they were like kind of like demon hunters and like timeline restorers, if that makes sense. Like they would find like glitches in the timeline and imbalances in the land, and they would strive to correct it. Really like some really wild theories, wild stuff. But they were interested in me because I could channel. So I was sort of summoned or contracted by one of them to channel like information about a healing they were going to do on this place called the Eye of God in Mexico. It's like this crazy location that aligns with this Eye of God constellation. It's like the parallel point on Earth. So I was getting information for them about that, and then it just turned into friendship. I'd go over, and they had like a hot tub, and we were joking around with it being hot tub time machines. So we would just hang out in there, and they would just bring up these like crazy beings like that. I like they were so imaginative. Like they were like, oh, like a 12D like timeline warrior from like, you know what I mean? Like stuff where you're like, what is like what? It's just, it was like the depths of the Akashic record. And they would mention these beings, and they'd be like, can you channel this? And I'd be like, sure, why not? Like, let's do it. And then it turned into me channeling a bunch of different beings, and that got me back into it. And then one day, when I was in a really dark place, I was listening to a Bashar video, and he's talking about how no one's energy can affect you. The only thing that can let that happen is your own definition that permits such a reality to be your experience. And this idea of you're essentially untouchable at all times, and what you say goes in your reality. And I remember hearing that, and it really gripped me in a needed way, where I was like, oh yeah, wait, that's right. You know, I was getting into a narrative of powerlessness. So when I heard that, it like brought me right back. Like I felt my power return in a really deep way. And then I think I was just so lit up from that. I started making the channeling of the Sasani a focus. And I was originally just channeling their collective consciousness, the spirit of their people. and I was posting those online. And I hadn't really been posting much before. I was posting like how to make your own kombucha and, you know, health food stuff, because those were my biggest passions at that time. And then, like, very quickly, I just started dumping, you know, these esoteric alien channelings on my YouTube. People started asking questions. I started doing more of it. And long story short, because I'm talking about myself quite a bit, but long story short, I joined this group on YouTube. It was a Sasani channeling council. It was just people that were hell-bent on channeling their Sasani counterparts. There were people from Amsterdam. There were people from Ireland. There were people from Spain. Like, it was people from all over the place. Even a woman from Hucolo was there, I believe. I forget her name, but she's a very popular person. She does a lot of stuff on their channel. So maybe it will come to me later. But pretty much I told them, I was like, okay, I'm channeling the collective consciousness. This is cool, but I want to channel a specific being. So I'm going to just launch into their world. At that time, I was astral projecting to channel. So I'd like launch myself into the entity's world, and I'd be like, hey, who wants to speak? You know, so I like launched myself into their world and just found the being most resonant with me and brought him through. He presented as Ryuk at that time. His name was very close to Ryuk, which is the death god from the anime Death Note. And I was terrified. I was like, am I channeling a death god pretending to be an alien? Is this bad? You know, but they were like, just call us Ryuk if that helps you feel better about it. I was like, okay, cool, we'll do that. So he was the being that was brought forth, and they like grilled him. Like when I brought him through and he claimed identity and he's told his backstory, they like really got thorough with him. They were asking about other entities that people channel that I had never heard of before. They were asking about the entity Adronis, channeled by I forget his name.
We don't use this name on this channel.
I know. As I was saying that, I was like, oh wait, hold on. Hold on. But yeah, okay, his name just came back. I won't summon he who shall not be named on the Enlightenment. Hey, somebody's got to be that guy. I mean, it's a badge maybe. But pretty much they're asking me about his entity, and I didn't know if this was a being or like a location on Earth or what. Like, I'm still semi-conscious, and I pretty much like read this being and like talked about like what I saw and like what it was. And, you know, I didn't know if it was accurate. I was just kind of in total like trust surrender mode. And then when I got out of the channeling, I asked, and they were like, do you know about this being? I was like, no, I don't even know what it is. And they were like, you channeled something pretty real, pretty good. And that, you know, really built my confidence, you know, because it was like a intense interview. Like they weren't holding back with the entity. So I had a big confidence boost from it, and then just kept channeling. And I worked with my good friend Erin Elliott on the Bashar Facebook page. And me and her did an interview where she interviewed Ryoka now, but at the time Ryuk. She interviewed him, and then people got really excited because I think they were maybe surprised to see more channelers of the Sasani come forth, because I think they've only had a few representatives on Earth. I mean, Daryl, and then there's I forget her name, but this really talented woman in Japan who channeled Bashar for a while, and I think I'm not sure who she channels now, but I think they had a very small representation on Earth, and probably I think that was a good thing. I think rightfully so, because if it is a very powerful message, very timeless, very true. And it is like almost omniscience. A lot of what he talks about, it's like, how could a person know this? And then, like, you know, it like comes true oftentimes. You know, I've seen a lot of his stuff come true that he talks about. So I think that to channel them, it does require a certain type of mind and a certain type of vision, I think, for life. Otherwise, I think channeling them would be more popular. But I know it's caused me to change a lot. Like it's like being a part of an invisible mystery school where like you get initiated and there's like levels to it, but like you don't know like you're even being initiated. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm just channeling, and then all this crazy stuff happens, and you're like, whoa! And then you know, you start evolving, and I'm sure you experience this, Rob. It's like you evolve, and it's like the entity, like through you, like levels up and gets more advanced, and it's like this. I always describe it as like a reciprocal evolutionary ladder or growth process.
It doesn't seem to stop too, does it? The concept of at least the growth in channeling energetically, and the aspects of the dimensionality of it too. It doesn't really ever stop. I mean, for me at least, that's been my experience. I feel times where it kind of evens out a little bit and kind of just does that little bumps up and down for a little while, but it always at least in my experience, when I seem to have my personal developmental growth, then my channeling growth comes right with it, like almost next hand in hand.
Yeah, totally, totally. I think I've seen that very strongly with like personally developing psychic skills in certain ways. Like I got really into pendulum magic and using pendulums to divine information. And I started getting so good at it, I didn't need to use the pendulum. I could use my body. And then it just like turned into the channeling, being able to like read anything. Like I was just like they were like, we will now like make predictions. We'll do help, like all the stuff they wouldn't do before. Once I got that skill, they were like, all right, like you open Pandora's box, like do it. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, read whatever you want now, which is really interesting, right? Because it makes it sound like I'm the one doing it. It's very much something I feel it's like definitely being done through me, you know, the channeling. Because I'm semi-conscious a good portion of the channeling. I mean, there's some moments like it's full, like I'm not sure what we're talking about, but I keep going. You know, there's moments like that. But there's a lot of me as an observer or sort of energy guide while the channeling's happening. But I've had channelings, especially when I first started, where I mean, it was very much my own higher self, or maybe the higher parts of my ego, right, being the voice. And those are good parts. I don't think they're bad parts. I think they can deliver good information. But then I've also experienced when it's the guide, and it's like a whole other animal. I mean, it's like I don't know. It's like three of me put together, like in a spaceship. Like, you know what I mean? It's
I love
really,
that description.
yeah. It's really similar to that, and it's how it feels. So yeah, man. Yeah, that's a little bit of my story, and of course, along the way, I got into, like I said, psychic skill stuff. So it led me into learning alchemy from different Daoist teachers, ceremonial magic from Damien Echols, the famous artist, famous defier of death and injustice. They were gonna. This was my mentor for about a year, and I still follow him. And you know, I mean, online I don't follow him, but you know,
Right.
yeah, I still follow his work and keep tabs, because this dude, this is like how you know magic's real. It's how you know God, source creator's real. It's how you know that there is good in the world. Like this dude was wrongfully convicted. He was framed by police for a triple homicide
Whoa.
when he was like 14. You know what I mean? He was like the one goth kid in his town. And this was during the Satanic Panic. So anyone in
Oh
black was like,
yeah.
you know, a Satanist. So these three kids get like brutally, you know, killed, in like their bodies left. So like the police like get a mentally challenged person, Damien, and this other kid, and like they pretty much frame them, and they mentally torment the handicapped child until he like gives a confession. And obviously, like, you know, if you're mentally handicapped and someone's abusing you and they're like, hey, we'll stop if you just say this, like of course
Oh
they'll
yeah.
say it. Yeah, it's a
There's
stop.
been so many cases that have been overturned through DNA proof alone, you know, because once they get a confession for the court system, that's just as good as a guilty plea.
Totally. Yeah, yeah.
That's
It's
horrible, man. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
They put him
apparently
on
he beat it though, right? I mean,
he
they
did.
figured out they didn't do it eventually. How
Which,
long did they
well,
serve?
they're still fighting it. The state of Arkansas refuses to do DNA evidence. They refuse to test it. He was recently in court last summer, and it was the SWAT team was like outside. Like it was like full like martial presence. And it's like Damien, his lawyers, his wife Lori, and then just like these goth kids that are like, "We love you. Like, please be safe, Damien. Like, and it was just a hilarious and ridiculous look, I think, from the state of Arkansas. But they kept him in solitary confinement for about 10 years. And before that, it was like another 10 years, like in, I guess, the general populace in the prison. But yeah, and he just used magic. He used meditation and magic to get himself the hell out of there. Like, he was just this nobody from Arkansas, and like Eddie Vedder and like Peter Jackson and Johnny Depp like come to this dude's aid. Like, it's wild stuff. Like, you hear it, you're like, this sounds like a kid's nightmare that like he became lucid in and like dreamt up a better dream. Like, it sounds like fiction, but it really happened. And when I put him in the same category as like Wim Hof, right? Like, they're both, like, Wim Hof, for people that don't know, this is the dude that climbs Mount Everest in his shorts. He's broken like a bunch of world records. He hung from like a helicopter by his fingers for like an insane amount of time, hiking the Mojave Desert, doing like a triathlon in the Mojave Desert with no water. Like, this dude's just pushing limits, and he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. So I put Damien in that scene.
Doing what he does in the mountains with 3 or 4 times the layers of clothes that you would wear in a Michigan winter, and they're dying of freezing to death, and he goes up short.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's like you hear these people, and you're like, this shouldn't be happening, but it is. What the hell is their secret? Because like, I'm one to think if someone can do it, so can I. I mean, within reason, but I think that's very true most of the time. So when I heard Damien's story, I was like, I gotta know what the hell he did. Like, how did this work? And it led me into Kabbalistic magic, working with archangels, angels, angelic choirs, learning how to summon things. He's like I recommend everyone check him out. Damien's a treasure chest of spiritual goodness and advanced techniques. Like, really made a big impact on me. So yeah, I mean, I'm realizing the time. I'm like, damn, I've been going hard for like 30 minutes.
I mean, I wanted to go through all this stuff anyway, because that's part of it too. Some of my guests that have been on 2, 3, 4, 5 times before, and then they get on, we just skip the whole thing. We're like, no, we're not doing story. If you guys want to listen to the story, go back. But being the second time on, I know you did a couple things with us, but being on this platform, on this show, I think it's great. So yeah, please feel free to share at the level of what you want to share, because I want people to get to know you, and I want people also to get to know how things are going with you, and other things like that. One of the things I want to make sure we talk about too is your time in Japan recently, but I also want to make sure you've shared enough of your story and past.
Yeah, I mean, that's my story. I mean, there's like crazy. I mean, there's so many details to mention, but I mean, that's the crux of it. And I mean, I guess if I had to sum up the story, it's like, it's all worth it. Like, whatever choices you have to make to grow as a person and dedicate yourself to your evolution, it's always worth it. And it might like temporarily cost certain experiences, right? Like, maybe if you're devoted to a path, you don't do certain things anymore, right? It might cost something, but it's always worth it. And somehow the spiritual path, if it's done, I think, correctly, it doesn't alienate someone from their life. If anything, they get more involved, more capable, and you start. It's like you're the god of the solar system, and you're like moving things, and you're not doing it alone. You're doing it with the spiraling movement of the galaxies. There's like a higher intelligence behind the movement, but it's 100% worth it. The pursuit of this. I love where I'm at now. A lot of things have been created. A lot of things have been destroyed. And it's all worth it, 100%. I've been at times in my youth, I've thought I'm at my peak. Like, this is the best. Like, this is amazing. And I'd have crippling losses, but then, and I'd say, oh no, I've like maybe made like God angry or pissed off my gods or whatever the hell it is. Right. But sure enough, there's always this like crazy resurrection, and it's like, I rise to new levels. Sometimes the reality is very different, like irreplaceably different, but it's like I find a way to love it, and then all of a sudden it's a part of me, and it's like, how could it ever have been anything else? This is like what it was always meant to be, So it's always worth it. This pursuit. It's the only pursuit, I think, really. I think it fits into everything else. Like if you're spiritual, you're going to be a better parent. If you're spiritual, you're going to be better in business. If you're spiritual, you're going to just be a better citizen, better member of your community.
I mean, if you want to be a race car driver, you'd be a better race car driver.
Oh my God, dude, you'd be the best race car driver. Get like get a guru in a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. Like, they're gonna win, dude. They're gonna win. Just saying, like, yeah. It's
the reason I make that outlandish kind of example there is because I've actually picked up so many different hobbies since I started my spiritual thing that I do way out. It has nothing. It's not even adjacent to an idea of community version of what the spiritual journey looks like. But even these things that have nothing to do directly with spirituality, using the spiritual principles that I've had, I've been able to absorb the information easier. I've been able to utilize it better, physically, mentally execute these things on a higher level. So I think you're right. I think with a spiritual journey comes the journey of everything else, or at least improvement in everything else.
Yeah, totally. I think so. And even if there's like, because we were talking earlier about the planets aligning and it kind of being like a chiropractic adjustment, for the solar system or something, right? And it like causes shakeups and breakups. But it's like the things that get broken up on the spiritual path, they're like supposed to get broken up. Like it's not an error, like, because life's a play, right? It's supposed to have drama, I think. So I think when these crazy things happen, they might suck and it might be painful and like stressful, but there's always like a hidden benefit to it. There's always some reason it's happening. So whatever the spiritual path eats up, it's like, let it have it. I mean, salvage what is important, I think, right? And mourn what's been lost and honor it. But even if there's loss or challenge on the path, again, it's always worth it. For the Judeo-Christian peeps out there, it's Christ carrying the cross before he transforms with the light body. It's that. Yeah,
that's actually pretty profound. Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Yeah, and the idea, I've always been a big believer that I think also Treb sharing the idea that Earth is meant to have difficulties and hardships, and that's all part of the journey. It's how you deal with those that gives you better understanding of who you are, better understanding of Earth, better understanding of life as a whole. So I think that always helped me in some way, because I know there's a lot of spiritual philosophy that's like, if you're hurting, you're doing wrong, or if you're feeling really good, you're doing it wrong. And
yeah,
both of those don't really.
Both of those are terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel so bad. There's people right now who are like, but that's true. And it's like, sure, man, if you say so, but couldn't it be better? Couldn't it be like, if you're hurting, it's good. If you're good, it's good. If you're gray, it's good, right? Like when's it not? Like, it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm not in crippling pain all the time. My lungs work. I can move my body freely. Like, it's not that bad. It's pretty good. Like, I've been in like some shitty situations, right? Like in like places I don't want to be in, and I can't leave, right? I'm like held there against my will, It's happened a few times. And like even there, it's like, dude, I'm like astral projecting. I'm living it up. Like it's not bad, right? Like torture is bad, but like emotional suffering, like it's bad too, for sure. It can be crippling. I've definitely dealt with that, but like emotional suffering, like that's kind of, it's like a game, I think. Right. It's like, I'm hurting. Why? Like what needs not being met? And like you address it on the psychological level. But then it's like, how's my body doing? Have I like taken a shower? Have I like exercised? Have I stretched? And it's like, oh, I can do that. And then it's like, have I called like the people I care about? Right. And very quickly you're like through the emotion, like reorganizing your life and your well-being. And then before you know it, you're so busy improving yourself. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot I was like sad. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, well, the pain too that you go through, the things that you go through, the hardships, fear, whatever, those always also tell you, not just about what you can be doing different in actions, behaviors, thoughts, or emotions, but it also tells you a lot about your beliefs. and it tells you a lot about how you're forming the parameter of your program for life. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah. I feel like the belief thing is so trippy because it's so convincing. Like, I feel like when you crack belief systems, it's like waking up in the dream a little bit because it's such like a subconscious program that the symptoms of it are so easily seen, right? The thought patterns, the physical sensations, the emotions. But then to really slow down and be like, what's like the story I'm telling myself that I've hypnotized myself with? And it's like, if you can unravel that, it's like the sky's the limit, because if you can unwrite stories that are like super true, then you can also write stories that become super true. And it's very empowering, I think, the belief technology.
It is. It definitely is. And even, you know, this is something, you know, I know Treb and Aridif have always talked a lot about with belief system. They even created that little tool, the 10-step belief system tool, that kind of takes you through the belief systems and helps you find ones that you can't figure out and blah, blah, blah. But eventually there are some that are so like embedded in you that it's not going to be possible or easy to go around them or change them. I mean, it's always possible, but if it could feel that it's impossible if it's really deeply ingrained. So sometimes using them for your benefit is actually helpful, and sometimes using bad beliefs for your benefit in other areas while you try to figure out how to go around it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm
So
thinking, yeah, this is awesome.
it's a fun game. It's a fun game. Like you said, it's a
Totally.
mental exercise, an emotional, spiritual exercise.
I'm thinking of a person that just can't stop viewing people as assholes. Like, they're like, everyone sucks, but then it's like, and they can't change it. So it's like, so I'm going to be really good. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, maybe, I don't know if that's the best example, but like,
That's a great one. I love it.
yeah, everyone sucks. So I'm going to be like the one good person. And then before you know it, I feel like that belief changes itself, because inevitably you'll run into other good people and you're like, oh, another good one. Huh.
Didn't
Maybe
know
I've
they
misjudged this
existed.
species, you know?
That's so beautiful. Let's talk about your time in Japan too.
Oh, sure.
I want to hear about that because you and I talked when you were in Japan a little bit, and then yeah, every time you've gone there, from what I take from what you've shared with me personally, and if you don't want to talk about this publicly, that's fine too. But it seems to be life changing, altering, kind of like how Sedona was for me, how Asheville's been for me. These little key spots of energy that are just really transmutive and really special. And Japan seems to be one of those places for a lot of people, but for you too, especially. So can you share maybe a little bit about this last trip and anything that you learned or anything that shifted or any just fun things that you got to experience?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. It's definitely impactful. I think I've experienced, especially this trip recently, one of the most profound perspective changes. I wasn't even seeking it, but I like. I think as I get older, and the responsibilities and dynamics of life test me more and more. I think I've developed. I don't want to say a short fuse. Like, I don't like project anger at people. I usually like find better ways to deal with it. But I mean, for sure, like, I would get like really competitive, and like I would like, how would I describe it? I was almost like territorial, if you will, with my aura and like mindset, right? I'm not feeling that I'm like better than people, but kind of like being ready to fight all the time, if that makes sense, right? Like, that was my, and here I am, like, channeling, doing spiritual teachings, and then I'm like driving, and I'm like, I will like bleed your family, like that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like, really, like, just like psychopathic thoughts behind the wheel, and then you get out of the car and it's like kind of still with you. So like I don't know, always like sizing people up and stuff, like silly things that are like kind of gratifying to the lower self, And I like was just dealing with so much of that. I was like, it's like, here, I'm just gonna like entertain it, and it'll leave. But once I went to Japan, this most recent trip, it really changed me, because it wasn't before. When I was in Japan, it was like we took little subways everywhere to the different events. We didn't spend much time traveling privately. We would take buses and things. But this most recent trip, I mean, it was very, very cozy. Like, we had one of our friends, Psycho and Genshu, together. They just drove us like everywhere to all these events. For some of the places, we'd be in the car for like 6 hours. And just like living with people in Japan for that long and spending time with them, it like soothed that beast in me. Like I came back here and like my driving's so different. I don't tailgate people anymore. I give everyone space. Like it like really impacted my social dimensions, like how I operate and how I treat people. And I wasn't aiming for that. I didn't even know that was a thing I needed to correct, really. But that definitely brought it out. And I mean, that's maybe not the most exciting thing. That's probably the most interesting change I've seen in myself since I've been there. And also, too, I've noticed when I tell people in the U.S. I've gone there, they light up. They're like, "What? Tell me more!" Like it's very well received here, which is cool. But Japan's nuts. Like I think of Japan as like an Eastern version of ancient Sumeria. Like the ancient Sumerians and Mesopotamians had gods for everything, right? God of the bridge, God of the lamp, God of my house, God of the sun, moon, stars, right? Everything. And you go to Japan, it's like that. Like there's shrines everywhere. So like the god of the mountain, or like the local fox spirit, or this like tyrant who like murdered people. So they made him into a god and built him a shrine so they could trap him and control him. Like that kind, it's like really like deep magic and like
That's amazing.
yeah, it's and a lot of Japan is based off of like ancient China, right? Like there was always transferences of language and medicine and technology between mainland China and Japan. So Japan, like my friend summed it up really well. He's like, Japan's like the update. You know what I mean? Like it's like what China sort of, I think, could have become if they were maybe softer. But yeah, Japan's like, it's really amazing to go there. It's hard to explain too. Like trying to describe a place in its total magnitude. It's like trying to describe a dream. People are like, okay, cool, and you're like, it's more than cool, but yes, cool.
You're like, no, you don't even get. No.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude. It's so crazy. You'll love it, dude. It's like an intoxicating place, but like a good intoxication. Like you don't get like stupid drunk. You get like high on life, but like super life. Because we would go to these shrines. Like we did shrines almost every other day. Like they bring us these crazy ancient places, and there's like people like everywhere being respectful and like worshiping at the shrine and exchanging energy with it. And like a lot of people, it's very traditional. Like you go to the shrine, you clap twice, you bow twice, then you sort of have a moment of silence with the god, and then you bow twice and leave. But I was going up there, man. I would do the clap and the bow. I'd share money, but then I would just do energy exchange with the shrine. Like I was like bringing it into me and sharing my power with it. And I like just started storing the shrines like in my body. So now like I just like go inside and it's like the shrine's there and I can interact with the god inside now. So it's like, you know, my point is like if you go there and really make it a deep spiritual experience, like it will stay with you and like really alter your life path and karma in a good, really good way. Like it's clean, like very clean energy. Like you go there and like the spiritual current, it's like it's not like the US where you go into like a weird earth chakra in the woods and you're like something bad's gonna happen. Like that's not there. Like even like the weird shit in Japan, like the weird energies, like you're like, oh, this is like mysterious and cool. Like, what is it? You know, it's like met with curiosity, I think, rather than fear, not just in my own experience, but I think culturally, because they don't really differentiate. I mean, they do in certain ways, but their word for demon, their word for angel, their word for God, it's one word and it's kami. So like when you talk to them about like demons and like lower entities, if they go to translate that, they'll be like, oh, like a negative god. You know what I mean? It's not like how would I put it? They don't make the same hierarchical divisions that I see in Western spirituality, where it's like you have God at the top, and then you have like the angels, and you have like the titans, and then you have the demons, and then you have the hungry god. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like that necessarily. It's more unified, and I think you don't just see that in the spirituality, you absolutely see that with the people. It's like a collective mind, yet everyone in that collective has like their own independence. Everyone's got their own thing. Like you never see someone that like is just like I don't know, like how would I describe it? In the US I feel like I encounter people that are some, not so much these days, but one-dimensional people where it's like I'm just like Joe the construction worker and like this is what I
do construction, right?
yeah, exactly. Like in Japan, it's like, yeah, this dude like works at the 7-Eleven, which like serves sushi, and like it's like 7-Eleven from heaven. It's like the best, and it's crazy. 7-Elevens in Japan are worth it. Definitely go frequently.
That's what Ruben said. Anything you can find in the fast food there is better than anything you can find in the upper fast-ish food type places here.
Yeah, they don't mess around. Like everybody there's epic. Like everyone there's like it's crazy. Like I think their idealization of the ideal has paid off really well. Like no trash. There's no trash anywhere. There's no litter. Beautiful nature, and you're in the middle of a city, and you turn left, and all of a sudden there's a fox shrine. And it's not like some little shrine. It's like a temple with a courtyard, like in the middle of like a bustling city. And it's like a little portal. Like you go in there, it's quiet, and like you like feel it. It's like, it's, if anything, like the spirit's more powerful, I find, in the cities because of all the human energy. So like if I go to a city shrine, it's like, oh, this thing's buzzing. Like this is buzzing. I've had like nature shrines do that, but some are subtle, right? Some you don't feel too much, but others you're like, whatever's in there is like talking like a lot. Oh my God. So yeah, it's 10 out of 10. If you've been on the fence about going to Japan, jump the fence, go in legally, but jump the fence, you know what I mean? And you'll have a great time. No regrets in Japan. Anything you do will be good.
Well, yeah, that's great. And I've always had a calling from Japan too, personally, but I think as an American, the idea of being in a large city and being able to walk around at 3 a.m. without concern that a crime could happen to you. And I know America's portrayed a lot worse than it actually is, because I've walked around Chicago downtown 3 a.m. before, and I was fine. But there are elements of that happen here in the U.S. And in certain places it can be really, really heavy and really a big deal. But that idea alone is one that really resonates with a lot of people I've heard too from the US. So yeah, so that I appreciate you sharing that. I want to talk too a little bit before we get towards the end. I know we've got about a little less than a half hour left, but you and I are going to be doing 2 events too that are coming up very soon. Next week, actually, we're going to be in California and Mount Shasta. So I just wanted for you to share a little bit with people about what you plan to do there, kind of what the situation is, yeah, all that good stuff.
Totally. It's so insane that that's coming up. So we were just talking about how quick it is, but it's true. It's like a meteor. You're like, it's like the prophets are like, the meteor is coming in like 3 months. You're like, cool. And then 2 months and 3 quarters go by, and you're like, oh, there it is in the sky. Holy cow, I forgot. Amazing. I didn't forget, but it just these trips always kind of sneak up on me. Like I'm like ready for it, but then I'm like, oh, I gotta get like ready now. But it will be great. I'm very excited. The entities are very excited because it's going to be a really powerful door that's going to open people's minds telepathically to the intelligences of Telos and very pure iterations of the Lumerian current. And I'm excited for that because they're mysterious. And I mean, rightfully so, I think it, we've warranted, our behaviors have warranted secrecy, as a species. So I get it. But they are very mysterious. And I know they do talk regularly through certain channels, yet I still find like, if you don't know about those channels, it's like their world's very unknown to the masses. And that's what I like about them, because they represent to me ancient humanity's evolution into a multidimensional space within the earth, and ultimately the secrets to our past. I feel that they hold a lot of this because it's Lemuria, right? Excuse me. It's the land of Mu, ultimately, right? Lemuria is a new term developed, I think, in the late 1800s by a guy who found some islands off the coast of India, if I'm not mistaken, and there were a lot of lemurs there. So he was like, oh, like lemurs, we'll call it Lemuria. So it's like a new word.
Oh, but, that's crazy.
Yeah. I was doing a deep dive because we had to do a channeling on it. So I wanted to get as much knowledge on my end as I could. And I keep finding, like, when I look at these old maps and like I listen, especially with the Japanese people, they talk about Lemuria, but more specifically they talk about Mu, the land of Mu, which there's a with that word alone, there's a lot of really interesting linguistic synchronicities with many cultures. For example, in Chinese, right, Mu, like with a downward tone, is wood, which is the element of the spring season. And it represents the rising sun. It represents growth, prosperity, like all the good things you want in life, all the things we love about spring, right? This word mu contains it in the Chinese language. So I can't help but think that those meanings are not just coincidental. I think this is a reference to Lemuria being this land of prosperity ultimately, and really symbolic of our golden age. So I feel at the retreat, we're going to be accessing a lot of that, bringing that current through. Ryoka is going to be talking deeply about what I can only guess is going to be the Lemurian timelines and their tiffs, if you will, with Atlantis, and like what the hell happened because of that. Because there's so much there. I don't want to like say too much now because I can't always predict what Ryoka is going to talk about, but I just know there's a lot going on with both Atlantis and Lemuria still, not just with all of us being the reincarnation of these beings linearly, but like their worlds are still interacting and they're still settling disputes, right? The conflict that we see between like materialistic scientists, technocentric people, and these indigenous traditions and the preserving of the old ways, like that is, from my perspective, the Atlantis-Lemurian conflict, like still happening. And that's being, in my opinion, nourished by these two civilizations still thriving, right? Like their physical civilizations crumbled, but they like still have preserved themselves. Atlantis did it, I think, more successfully in certain ways, in that they colonized so much, right? So there's all these pyramids everywhere. But if you look at India and Indonesia and I think certain elements of Japan, for sure, you can see that the Lemurian or the Muin ways are still present. But I think Atlantis had a more expansive reach because there's even pyramids in China, like, and we've seen pictures of what's very likely pyramids in Antarctica. It hasn't been proven yet, but I think it's probable.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
The 3D pictures that I've seen, I know mountains can be a triangular, four-sided style or shape to a natural mountain, but the perfection of the angles and everything, I would be very hard pressed to believe that that's not some ancient.
I want it to be a pyramid. I mean, like, I'm biased. I heavily want it to be a pyramid. But like, also, it does look like a pyramid. So I think maybe we'll get that one. Let's hope.
You know, me and Wendy actually talked a lot about this when she was on a few weeks ago, Wendy Kennedy, and one thing I told her is that it's funny because the Lemurian energy is just, it's the one thing that my channeling hasn't really touched until more recently. Like the word was there, like Treb said, yes, you know, if you're talking about Earth incarnation cycles, we have the Konki, which were the first Earth inhabitants, like third density or higher Earth inhabitants, and then you had Lumanians, which are totally different from Lemurians, and then Lemurians, Atlanteans, Earth reptilians, and then humans. But he'll say, you know, yeah, hey, here's about the Lemanians, and here's about, you know, and says all this stuff and goes on and on about it, explains their whole culture and everything. And he's like, and then the Atlanteans with all of this, and then, oh yeah, here's Lemurians. Oh yeah, and then he'll just go, you know what I mean? So it's like the name comes, some small information comes, but hardly anything. And Wendy said she noticed that in her own channeling until more recently too. In the last 3 to 5 years, it's been more present. And she said the reason that the Pleiadians told her that that's why it's happened is because the energy of Earth is going through a Lemurian type of energetic shift, like working backwards. Like Lemurian energies were this high, very higher dimensional, very evolved energies, where the Atlanteans were that, but went down, and the Lemurians' energy kind of went up. So it's kind of like that energy shift, and we had to go through the downfalls and the bad stuff before we could get to the better stuffs, or something like that. I can't remember exactly how she put it, but it was to that general effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was very interesting of an idea. I'd never thought about or heard that before.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely resonate with that. And I think we've been exploring the Atlantean karma for some time, right? I think a lot of our military conflicts worldwide are connected to the Atlantean conquest mentality, the desire to sort of immortalize oneself, right, through reputation or fame or finance or what have you, right? I think that's also very Atlantean. Like I feel like, right, like the Lemurians, like I was getting at before, the Lemurians anchored themselves into Telos, right, into Mount Shasta. They picked like a natural formation already there. And the Atlanteans, right, they anchored themselves into like pyramids and like things they made, you know. So there's this I think the Atlantean influence has been very present. And I think now, you know, so much of that karma has been transformed. We're getting more of that Lemurian presence now, right? Where it's like how would I describe it? Instead of Lemuria sinking, as is described by a few sources, it's like now through us it gets to rise through our new world we're creating each day.
Well, I love that. It sounds amazing too, and I appreciate you sharing that perspective with us, because that's always something too that I've never really understood, and just really starting to scratch the surface. And Ruben's creation of this event really got me going into it a lot more. Excuse me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, really, I feel you. It was almost surprising, I think, because it was like surprising even to be invited to in a really nice way, where it's like Lumerian stuff. Like, okay, I channel aliens, but like, let's like talk to inner Earth people. Hell yeah. You know, it was like a very pleasant invitation, but unexpected, because I feel you. It also, like I did maybe one transmission with, you know, Ryo at the time, you know, when he was going by that alias. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it came up as one transmission. He talked about it, and then I don't know, the audience's attention went to other things. Our focus went to other things, and it sort of just was you know, an interesting moment in time that I can't help but feel was ultimately foreshadowing this in a certain way.
Oh, sure. The reason too, when Ruben was on, he kind of described it as the reason why Wendy and you and me are going to be here too, is because the galactic perspective on this energy is important, because you know the Lemurian race itself didn't just have earthly kind of energy. They connected with higher dimensional beings and the extraterrestrial types of beings. So yeah, that makes it very interesting. So let's talk about the next time we're going to be together, and kind of tell us. Oh, before we jump to that, what are you going to be doing for your workshop, or for any of the things that you're doing there?
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to be doing a crash course. It's going to be, I say crash course because I'm kind of a dramatic person, but it's going to be a nice workshop and training on how to work with elemental energy. For example, how to summon the power of Shasta, right? How do you call that in a very focused, specific way? And then how do you speak to the mountain spirit to essentially ask it for favors, right? To equip you in certain ways. But we don't want to just limit ourselves to the mountain. How do you summon the power of thunder and lightning, right? And work with that. How do you summon the power of the earth itself? You know, we all can think of these things, and of course, we've all had our moments with them. You know, spiritual connection is super intuitive. We all do it, but to approach it like a technician, someone who knows the language of energy, someone who knows how energy behaves and what energies are useful for what purposes. So we're going to be training people on how to do this, because I think that people have a lot of really amazing power. And I think that with only a few exceptions, a lot of the spiritual trainings, in my opinion, that exist are a little limited. They don't seem to really get into technicalities. It's more feeling and your intention, and if you get lucky, it happens. And like, that's nice, but like, how do you make something happen, you know? And how do you do that not just with your own will, but like with the power of a thunder god? You know, how like that's the stuff I want to teach people, because this is what I do. You know, when I talk about having crafted my life, I don't mean it metaphorically. Like, I've like sat down and like made contracts with like angels and all types of crazy beings to like get things done. And it happens like lightning, like real fast. It's like a nice calm day. Then all of a sudden it's like the middle of summer and like, you know, heat lightning just strikes. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? And it's like, oh, that's the thing you've been invoking for the last 6 months that you forgot about. You know, it's like, here it is when you least expect it, in the best moment. So I want to equip people with that technology in an earth-based way, because it's you know, sort of a nature-centric retreat, in my opinion. I don't know if it's going to be that, but it feels like that certainly to me.
Well,
So I want to
be out in the middle of kind of nowhere,
yeah,
right out on the mountain in the middle of the forest. So yeah, it's pretty naturey out there, at least from what I've understood. I've not been there ever. This will be my first time. So
yeah, same here. So yeah, so I want to teach people how to do that kind of stuff, but with the elements, because I think elements are a good starting point. Like, I speak again very dramatically. Invoking thunder gods is cool, like amazing, like definitely strive for that. But like, start with like, I don't know, the spirit of like fire or water. You know what I mean? Start with something more manageable, and then from there you build up to these like bigger powers as your energy increases. So I want to help people to know how to do that and how to walk away with those techniques and facets of knowledge so they can recreate it on their own.
well, that's beautiful, brother, and thank you for sharing that. I want to switch over to talk to everyone too about what you're going to be doing in the Stargate Crusader retreat in Madison. This one's going to be the one in Connecticut, and right on the ocean. It's going to be a pretty intimate thing where all of us that are going to be there, we got 8 of us and like 30 or 35 people, I believe, maximum that are possible to be there. So we're going to have a lot of close connection, communication, and we're going to be living together for 3 days, pretty much in the same building, in the same place. So tell us a little bit about what you plan to do there, about what things that you want to exchange with people about and kind of talk about and all of that.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm very excited for this one because Connecticut, I lived in Connecticut for over 10 years, starting in my 20s until I was, from like 20 to 30, I was like in Connecticut. So it's great to return. I'm really happy to go back. And I plan on, putting out my feelers to the people in New Haven, all the cool hippies and spiritual people there, and see if they want to come, because I think they'd love it. But with that retreat, we have some interesting stuff lined up. So I'm going to be teaching a magic workshop. We're going to be doing group rituals to invoke what I would describe as the spirit of Mercury, the Roman god Mercury. Also our planet Mercury, right? They're essentially one and the same, right? The Roman god is the personification essentially of the planet, and the planet's a representation of the divine mind responsible for technology, success in business, hybrid beings, and magic, right? So Mercury is said to represent these things. So we're going to be doing a workshop where we're all going to be using power objects that we collect from the beach. We're going to be having orange candles. We're going to really dress it up to make it a powerful experience. And I'm going to be invoking the intelligences of Mercury in a ritual context involving everybody. And we're going to use the beings of Mercury as, you could say, energy stabilizers, because Mercury governs hybrids, which is, the beings I channel, right? The society.
Oh, I had no idea. That's crazy cool.
Yeah. So Mercury is all about hybrid consciousness. And so we're going to be using those beings as stabilizers to then invoke in a ritual context the hybrids. And it can get very strong. especially with a lot of people. It's essentially opening a portal. And I mean, with magic, they're kind of militant. Like they would say you command the being to emerge. That's how they talk. I look at it as like, these beings are my friends. I'm asking them to show up. And because they're pretty much infinite beings, they can easily show up. But, you know, some people like to feel like they're, I don't know, the drill sergeant. So I take a more devotional approach when I invoke things. I'm like, hey, I love you. Thank you for what you do. Thanks for
Right,
guiding.
right.
You know,
The
yeah,
way you
yeah.
would want to get called on by a friend or family, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to summon like Ryoka in a ritual and then be like, Ryoka, appear before me and now carry out this like it's like a little too much. I wouldn't want someone talking to me like that. Unless I were
No.
like their guard dog or something, you know. But yeah, so we're gonna be doing that. I'll be teaching that as myself, and we're gonna have people, some people will maybe be clairvoyantly perceiving it. Some people, we might have them sketching what they see if there's people that want to do that. But we want to have as many psychics turned on during that ritual as we can, so we can capture as much information as possible from that encounter. Because you'll feel them. That's the thing. Like you'll feel their etheric energy. Psychically, you may see them. And with photography, we may actually capture something on camera through it. So I have a lot of high hopes for it. I don't have a certain expectation on what needs to happen, but something of great interest will certainly happen. That much is for sure. So we'll be doing that. And then I'll be channeling Ryoka at the event. And from what I know, he's going to be guiding people into what he's described as the Temple of the Heart, which is, it's a very magnificent type of world that is contained within our physical heart, right? Just as the Lemurians are anchored in the structure of Telos, right? We have these spiritual realities in our body, in our organs. So we're going to be helping people go into the heart, cleaning the temple a little bit, making offerings in that inner temple. And that temple is going to reveal a lot. So that's just a sneak peek on what the topic will likely be about. But you can expect more than just that. That's for sure. It will, whatever is channeled will be much more than I can announce right now. But hopefully these little samples paint a big picture, because that's what we're aiming for, the big picture.
I say this all the time whenever I talk about doing an event, or when I'm remembering or talking about an event from the past. Those live get-togethers, when you're dealing with people who are either highly telepathic or have a high drive to be telepathic, or who just have large levels of excitement, whatever the case is, whenever you get all these people together and you have this powerful energy of channeling and powerful energy of other people's guides working together, it always is a magical thing. And I love the fact that we're doing both of these together too. At that level, just because I like you and I consider you my brother and I love you, but also us being able to do both of these puts the energy of that powerful channeling that both of us bring together. And really, whenever you bring multiple energies like that together with all the other presenters and stuff, it just really makes it amazing. And I really am excited about it. And
Yeah.
excited about a lot of cool stuff coming up too. But I'm really, really, really happy to hear that everything's been going well for you too, and that Japan worked out well. What other things do you have going on in life, or what things do you have going on in work that you're excited about that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few things. There's some things that are like really nice potentials, that will be actualized for sure. It's a matter of the timing. So some of these things are private family matters. There's certain things I'm striving for that will be beneficial for me and my loved ones. So I have some projects there that I'm very excited about, but the timing is a little uncertain. So I'm leaving that up to the extensions of myself and the collective self that we call the powers that be, not the evil ones in boardrooms, but the cosmic ones in spaceships.
The real powers to be,
the
right?
real, exactly, yeah, the real powers that be. So that there's some really good things on the horizon there on the family level, which I'm excited about. But for Myself now, I mean, it's crazy, man. I want to pick like a really big thing and to be like, this is what I'm excited about. But I think I want to say the cheesiest thing ever. I sound so corny in my mind thinking of this thought, but I didn't want to say it. It's so corny. I'm going to say it. I'm going to like punch my solar plexus a little bit. It's like, I get excited. Actually, here, I'm going to say it in my own way instead of this corny way. I get excited about like the littlest things. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to like a coffee shop. Like, sweet. Like, I get to listen to my favorite song. Like, hell yeah.
I
Like,
love that about you, though.
yeah, I'm like my friends used to call me like a golden retriever. Like, they're like, you are way too just happy and excited about everything. And I'm like, I don't think I can help it. Like, yeah, I'm like, we're going for a ride in the car. Like, I'm saying that to myself as I'm getting ready to drive, like, but yeah, I mean, jokes aside, I mean, the big things that I'm excited about right now, I'm looking to buy, with some people, right? Essentially a spiritual house in Japan, maybe
That
another part
sounds
of the world,
great.
but I'm looking to do that. I want to include people in this as deeply as I can, because my vision is, and I've had some really good friends help me form it. This vision is essentially a spiritual house that, the Japanese audience, right? Those that are really into this, they can rent the house, right? They can live there. They all have their own rooms. And perhaps it's a commercial residential. So there's like a cafe, maybe like they work in the cafe and like that helps pay for the place. Um, and then it's like, 3 months out of the year, it's like I have like a place to stay, and like not just me, right? Like make it very spacious. So like other channelers can stay there, when your friends can stay there, maybe even family. But that's like that's a big vision. So we're aiming for that. But we're also next summer, just heads up for everybody, we are looking to create a Mount Fuji expedition. Like we're going to be training people like in breath work and physical strength, so we can all together hike this mountain. So we're aiming for next summer for that, but an actual like hiking Mount Fuji Japan retreat. That's of course centered around open contact, channeling extraterrestrials. That's going to be the main spiritual theme, but the physical theme is going to be the hiking of this mountain, because it's in Japan. I mean, hiking Fuji is seen as this metaphor for enlightenment. So to
Oh,
do it
wow.
is to follow in the footsteps of like many powerful spiritual people who have hiked that and have had realizations and contacts and all types of things. So we want to help bring that to people. We want to prepare our audience. So we're going to be developing an online program before the actual retreat where people are going to be getting just basic physical fitness. We're going to be doing it together. Channelings will be involved in this online portion as well. But that's something we're aiming for. So that's very exciting. And I like it because to me, it's like a level up, right? Like first time in Japan, really, really cool. Like I loved it. It was like being in a whole new world. Second time in Japan, it's like I was more comfortable. I had a friend with me from America, so I had like just a buddy the whole time who was also our photographer. So like it was got some great footage. I'll send that to you when he sends it to me. He's finishing it up. But
Oh, please. Yes, that's
yeah,
great.
yeah, we had some crazy photos. They're cool. There's a lot of cool stuff we did. Um, so the second time, right, it was like, and the people, it was a smaller retreat, so it was much more intimate. So it was just like falling in love with like a whole like family of people that were so thrilled that I was there. So it was like very healing, right? So that was like time two, most recent time, like amazing, right? So it's like time three, it's like hike a whole mountain. You know what I mean? Like it's like the next iteration, and I'm very excited for that. It was not my idea, although I did think about it. I was like, because we did our retreat right by Fuji. We were by the lakes. It was very pretty, very amazing space. I really loved it there, the retreat center and the land. But I kept thinking, I'm like, why are we not on top of this mountain though? Like we're just looking at this Goliath of a mountain. Why are we at the peak? And then I have this great client and student that came, who had subscribed to me for a full year on Patreon. She still does. I still teach her, but she came, and this woman is like a lightning panther. Like she's incredible. She's so sweet and like playful, but then she's also like, hey, here's like a vision. Let's do it. You do this, you do that. We're making it happen now. And it's like I love it because I'm a very what's the word? I can be very like direct and like commanding, but I tend to operate through charm and subtlety. So to be around someone like that was like, oh my God, it was the best. I was like, thank you. You're saying all the things I want to say. Just keep going, keep going. Thank you so
Well, you're
much.
a Leo. That's part of being a Leo is charm.
That's true. It's true. I love it so much. I think it works. I don't think I'm ever too much honey for people. You know what I mean? I think I keep it uh
You don't
approachable.
oversweeten the tea, that's for sure. But
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
I always love that energy from you too, and I never realized until just a few years ago. I get along with most every person that I meet. There's not many people who automatically dislike me unless they're exposed to my channeling first, and then it's usually the channeling that they're more judging than me. But and I didn't realize I have my moon in Leo, so I was like, oh, well, that works, right? That makes sense.
Dude, yeah. Mine's in a Capricorn. And
So
yeah,
we switched it. We switched sun signs and moon signs.
totally. And I was thinking too, I was like, okay, so if my subconscious is Capricorn and like Capricorn's like the hidden foundation, like if the moon's the hidden foundation, right? The subconscious and the moon's conscious. I was like, if I align with like Saturn people, Capricorn people, like is my like subconscious foundation just kind of get like rock solid? And like I think it's working, man. And then I was like, holy stuff, is my like
Holy
Leo like
stuff.
is yeah, I was like, is my Leo power gonna like energize like Rob in certain ways? And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I feel like we're trading maybe psychically that like subconscious infrastructure so we can both like improve in certain ways.
I
Yeah.
I love it, and I'm actually I felt that too. You very easily bring that Leo part out of me when we're connecting and communicating together. When we did the event online together, when we did the special Patreon on my channel together, and whenever I've had you on the show, it definitely brings that part out of me very much. But I also, being a Capricorn, for whatever reason, I'm surrounded by other Capricorns. Kalina is a Capricorn. She's 3 days after me on my birthday. So like I'm gonna have my birthday at the channel panel in Arizona.
Oh,
Like
hell
the
yeah.
second day of the channel panel is my birthday, and then 2 days after the channel panel's done, Kalina will have her birthday. So it's weird. And my son's mother is a Capricorn, and all these people who played pivotal roles in parts of my development and stuff were also Capricorns, and having that Capricorn moon energy is always great too. And that makes sense why you're so dedicated to what you do too. I know not everybody is their sign or whatever, but it's obviously an energetic archetype that people decide to come and be born through. um, and Capricorn shows a lot of dedication to their craft, to their art, to their purpose in life, to their passions in life. And I've seen you do that since you started channeling. I've seen you come out of nowhere. A dude who was channeling, I kept my eye on you for a couple years to see what you do. It's something weird. As a person who's channeled for a long time, I really can love someone who channels, but I won't necessarily connect with that energy of them until I see that they've gone through this threshold of more than a couple years. Because so many people try to channel as a career path, and they don't realize that it's not a gigantic money pit like they thought it would be. Like they see Daryl Anka selling out stadiums, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you get rich." But even Daryl's company that he works with has 12 full-time employees. Blah blah blah. So what I'm getting at is the energy of people coming into channeling and then leaving is way more than people who stick around. So I always wait to see who's going to stick around, who's
Dude,
serious about it, who's
yeah.
who's holding true passion for it. You know
I
what I
feel
mean?
like there's some people that like started, I think like maybe a year or two before me, and I saw a few of them drop out recently, and I was like, oh, I remember being like, oh shit, like they're dropping like flies. I was like, uh oh, and then one of them just got back into it, which I was happy to see. I'm like, good, don't stop, because it's I don't know, it's too like would you feel weird if you probably how would you feel if you stopped? Like, would you feel weird being able
I would not. I couldn't stop as long as I'm alive. I'm a channeler by nature and a channeler by trade. And even if I stopped making money by channeling, I would still do it regardless. I mean, yeah,
it's too
it's
good.
embedded. Yeah,
Right. It's like addicting's not the right word because it's not that.
sure.
But it's like, how do I even just, because I think it's so different for everybody, I'm sure. Like I know I've heard you go on like full, I think you've told me you go on like full journeys when you channel.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I'm hanging out with Treb up until recently. The last time I went to Sedona, I can do it now. I'm still not present with everyone, but I'm not with Treb, and I'm working on that. I just talked to Treb for the first time in 3 months last week. I actually went and did it the old way because I was working with John for some of the coursework that I'm doing. And he's like, dude, you don't have a time schedule. I'm here all night. I don't mind if you take an extra 10 minutes to do it. So I went and chatted with Treb, and it was great. And I was like, dude, why haven't I connected with you like this in the new type of channeling? Anyway, sorry, you were asking that for a specific reason. But yeah, anyway, it's coming back again. I just gotta figure out the last couple pieces of it. But yeah,
that's awesome. That's I really appreciate that you share that. It's really, your process is interesting, and it's, how would I put it? I feel like that those worlds are so private, So to get an inside perspective is really cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worry. I actually don't. It's funny. I channel the same way for 15 years, about, give or take. Yeah, it's been about 14 years, and then I changed the way I channel completely. And I'm not saying my channel didn't develop, but even Kalina would sometimes be like, "Hey, what did you do with Treb tonight?" And it's such a different, and it's not necessarily a private world. It's just such a different experience from here. There's not even really a lot of ways to translate it. So I tell her the exchanges we had, the environments that I was in, but that's really all I could say about it without breaking my brain to try to explain it, yeah, being Capricorn, I'm very compartmentalized too. Like I am probably one of the most earth people that anyone knows. I enjoy life. I enjoy things on Earth. I enjoy things that a lot of people don't enjoy. Yet I still have this very amazing galactic higher dimensional experience, and I can keep them separate. And it's weird, but they're both equally important part of me, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I think that's cool because I think I'm calling myself out with this. So if anyone feels offended, I'm also talking about me when I say this. But like there's a lot of spiritual people where it's like they're vegan, and it's like they're just like waiting to tell you they're vegan. You know what I mean? Like it's like their whole, like Joe Rogan does a really good comedy bit on it. It's like they're just holding their breath, they're looking at you, and then they just can't hold it any longer. They're like, I'm vegan. I think there's a lot of people that are like that with spirituality, where it's just like they're just waiting to tell you they're like a tantric master or something, And I think the ability to separate those things is really useful. It's like useful across time because it's like in the Renaissance, if you were overtly spiritual, they would burn you. Like they'd be like, "Oh, you're a witch! Like time to die." So there's like survival advantage to that, I think. But also, like if you're not overtly spiritual, it's hard to offend those that are religious, those that are scientific. Because if you look like the average Joe, if you look I don't want to say average Joe, you're definitely not that. But if you look approachable, right, and earthy, like you described, it's like you can talk to anybody. And I think that's a huge advantage in life. And I think in channeling it's a huge advantage. Whenever I meet new people, like I'm always learning from them. Like people are ridiculously interesting at all times. Like everybody's got a thing. Everyone's got something crazy going on, or like a secret truth, or a hidden desire, or like whatever, right? People are like, look, I don't know, man, really, really fascinating. So to be able to speak to many people, I think potentially comes from being able to separate those things. But I think also being able to just apply the spirituality directly without it having to become a type of identity or costume. I think that's a definite benefit, I would imagine, from being able to separate those things.
Yeah, I like the way you describe it, and you're absolutely right. I can take some of my friends who channel and bring them into my family for Thanksgiving, and they would feel so out of place there because not everything that's talked about at the table would be to their interest or liking. Um, and with that division, I have the ability to be happy in the mundane and to be happy in the average daily routine. Um, where some people aren't. If they're not talking about higher dimensions every minute of their life, they're like, "Oh my god, I'm lost," you know?
This place
Um,
is so 3D. She doesn't even know
right,
what quantum mechanics mean. Like,
right.
it's like, yeah,
That's part
it's
of it too. But just the energy in general. Like I think of people who I would mm, be around in my life. For some reason, I'm the person everyone comes to ask questions to or advice from or get my perspective or just listen. And when I reflect something back, it always comes from the spiritual aspect of me, but I don't have to include that. And I don't have to say, hey guys, Treb's taught me this, in his world they do this and blah blah. I'm just like, yeah, I get it, you're upset and you're mad, and you should be mad. It's a shitty thing that happened to you, and don't beat yourself up for being mad. And I can use that effectively. And you're right, the fascination of people in general, that's a shared interest we both have. I've always told people, if there's one thing that excites me more than my family and my channeling, it's knowing how people tick and knowing how people work.
yeah.
And the beautiful thing about having that interest is I'm always able to meet people where they're at. I've heard people arguing with each other about things, trying to convince. And I'm like, if you really want someone to know where you're coming from, you have to start from where they're at. If you don't, there's no common ground. There's no way to communicate why you feel the way you do or why you see the way you do, because there's no way they're going to receive it, because you're already starting at a place far from where they're at. How are they going to get to you? They're not going to want to walk through that. They're not going to want to walk a mile to figure out something that they're having a problem with, that they don't think is a problem, or something that they aren't, that they know is a problem, but don't want to fix it the way you think it's going to be fixed. So you always have to meet people exactly where they're at. And I think my general experience, and you've gone through this too, through the drug life, the addictive life, going through these aspects of having violence around you, these really dark places taught me how to go to where people are at, no matter where they're at, even if they're in that place where they're on the streets, strung out 10 years of doing drugs every day. I can still meet someone at that level and try to get them to a level where they feel better. And it's an
Yes.
amazing skill to have, and I'm really glad that I had that, and I know you've got a lot of that too. And that's really what gets people excited when you share from where you're coming from too. And yeah, I just think that's something that's important about having a foot in both worlds.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, it's like, how can you be masters of the universe if you can't even like wave hello to your neighbor who votes differently than you?
Right. Yeah.
What kind of god or immortal will you be if you just are so quick to turn away from someone? I always think about the sun. I'm such a trope, but I think about the sun, and I'm like, there's that saying, right? The sun doesn't like look at some people and say like, "Oh, you suck. You're not getting my light." The sun's just like, I'm going to shine no matter who you are. And I think sometimes the sun can be a little blind, right? Sometimes it's just like baking areas. So maybe we shouldn't always be like that. Maybe we got to learn to, like we're talking about, fluctuate between the sun and the moon, shine as high vibrationally as you can, unconditionally, but know how to adjust that light like the moon does. So you can meet somebody where they're at. You don't burn them up unintentionally or alienate yourself by being too different, right? Yeah, exactly. You gotta be, it's just like you said. Yeah, you gotta be able to meet people where you're at. For listeners, if you're wondering how to do that, just learn the psychological art of how to mirror people. Like, you literally put yourself in the other person's shoes, and it's really, really useful. You can talk to anybody because the other person feels like they're talking to their reflection. And that's like what we describe falling in love as, right? Like seeing yourself in the other person. That's, I think, an old friend of mine gave me that as a definition of love, and I thought it was a very beautiful definition. So, through mirroring, I think we can connect with people more deeply. So I recommend learn that a little bit, and you'll be able to talk to anybody. You don't have to feel self-conscious, right? If you're self-conscious because you're thinking about yourself, right? But if you literally meet the other person where they're at, you put yourself in their shoes completely, you're like thinking about them. You can't be self-conscious in that state. So just for those spiritual people out there that are like, I love everyone, but I can't leave my apartment. Like, try that, You might be able to make it out the front door and to the grocery store and wherever else you need to go.
It's fascinating you said mirror people too, because that's what we're doing all the time. Even when we're talking to someone else, it's actually a reflection of our own consciousness through, even though it's their consciousness, it still holds the reflection of ours. And one of the most profound things that we were taught, Kalina and myself, about Lilith and about autism and about the level of autism that she has where she's nonverbal. This program called the Sunrise Program, like SON-rise, not the sun in the sky, but it was named after their son, who they helped go from nonverbal 8 or 9-year-old kid into a kid who was able to communicate, and you would never have assumed he went through that childhood talking to him now. So one thing that they do is they mirror those behaviors of the child you join. They don't call it mirroring, they call it joining, but other people call it mirroring. And you go there, and those things that they do to relax themselves, all autistic people do. Some people, repeat movie lines if they can talk. Some people stack blocks, or like Lily, she likes to play with magnets. So when she starts doing that, when we sit and join her, she sees us, she's like, you're interested enough about me to come into my world. Now I'm interested in what your world is. And that's how we've helped bring a lot of her surface energy out of her inside self and brought her to communicate with us out. And she, like I said, she's still not talking, but she is more interactive and more social than she's ever been. And that was one of the biggest breakthroughs we ever had with her, is starting to do that. So
That's
I really
amazing.
love that.
It's so cool, man. That's really amazing to hear. How old is she? How old's Lily?
She'll be 5 in Mount Shasta next week. She'll turn 5
Oh,
on the 25th.
oh,
Well,
that's so
about 2 weeks.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, dude, we're gonna have 2 birthday parties. I'm like flipping out with so much excitement, by the way. I'm like, 2 birthday parties in one retreat. I'm gonna friggin', I don't know, explode or something. That's so good, man. That's gonna be great.
It's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. It'd be
We,
so
we have
perfect.
gone over, brother, like we always do, because we could talk for hours, on air or off air. We always get on and we talk for hours, but we got to call tonight, guys. It is 11:47. We were 5 minutes late, but we're also 12 minutes over, even without being 5 minutes late. So we're gonna let you guys go, and Tyler and myself will continue our chat on afterwards. But we're gonna let all of you guys get to bed. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. Thank you, Tyler, for being here, brother. As always, I really enjoy my time with you, and I love you, and I appreciate you. So thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Rob. This is always so fun. I think one day you got to aim for the Joe Rogan status, right? Like 3 hours. Like, dude, because I feel like we're just getting into it now. So I like the cliffhanger.
Oh, I definitely, I could chat with you for 3 hours, and not all my guests could probably do 3 hours, but I think we need to open up the format for that at some point too, because every time it mostly lands when I talk to other channelers too, because there's this kind of kinship that goes in that layer of energy of just understanding the experience that we go through, and the energy that we share with the collective. It's pretty unique. But before we go, please let everybody know if they want to get a hold of you, want to check out your website, want to check out what you're doing at the next couple events you're going to be at. How can they get a hold of you?
Totally. Yeah. So everybody who listened, thank you. Without your attention and your spiritual work, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in. So everything you're doing, coming to this talk, the talks you come to for Rob and myself, it really helps our worlds thrive in amazing ways. So I thank you all for the gifts that you are, and the gifts that you've given so amazingly. And if you want to connect with me in different ways, if you want to experience the channeling, if you want to experience esoteric training and upgrades in skill sets that are of a psychic nature, you can find me on the galacticguide.com. That is my major website. That's www.thegalacticguide.com. And here you can book sessions with me for channeling. You can sign up for trainings. We are offering our Magnum Opus program. It is a 4-part program. Parts 1 through 3 have been completed. And the program has to do with sexual alchemy. It has to do with fusing the powers of the universe into a single ball of light within your intestines and activating it so it grows into a spiritual pregnancy that you one day birth through your crown chakra as an immortal self. So I'm not speaking poetically. That's literally what we've been doing. It's very ancient Daoist alchemical technology. Those were parts 1 through 3. Part 4, which we are going to be starting August 5th, and it runs all the way to January 2nd of 2025. We'll be starting it in 2 months, approximately. This is called the Astral Summit of the Tree of Life, where we are going to be astral projecting into the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, ascending the 10 spheres, the 10 dimensions. The final one is the abode of the source, the all that is. And before you get to the all that is, you get to experience all that is as different expressions, isolated as different dimensions, yet all connected. And these connections that link the dimensions, these are pathways, these are bridges, they are environments. These pathways connect to the tarot cards, they connect to the elements, they connect to certain angels, certain demons, certain Egyptian, Grecian, and Roman gods. Everything and more you could want to explore on the astral plane will be explored in this training. It's 22 meditations, it's 22 classes, and in the meditations, we will project astrally through this tree. We'll meet various beings. We're going to be practicing badass astral skills in these dimensions that you're going to be able to bring back into your life and apply in different ways. We're talking about shape-shifting. We're talking about invisibility. We're talking about flying. We are talking about moving objects. We are talking about guiding the evolution of people. We're talking about love potions, healings, everything. It's a big promise and it's a big curriculum. So expect that you will be involved if you come, and all levels are welcome to this training. You could come in a beginner and you're going to walk out a samurai of ceremonial magic and astral travel. So that is Magnum Opus. You can see on the galacticguide.com. And I'm also on Patreon. Patreon is where we regularly do a weekly Q&A where Ryoka comes forth and we interview him. The audience just presents their questions. We have amazing hosts that are wonderful, that are charismatic, that are really passionate about life. And it's a wonderful way to meet new people. We have a great group dynamic. I mean, a lot of people, they're on video, they're using their voice. So you really get a flavor of people. You get to see the other people that are on this path. And we also dose the Patreon, not just with these weekly channelings, but special channeling videos. And in the higher tiers, we even do very deep magical trainings where you can invoke really whatever you want. You could invoke aliens. You could invoke Lucifer himself. You could invoke Saint Michael, whatever you want. We teach you how to do it. We don't place judgment. It's your life. So we try to teach you to be as equipped and as knowledgeable and as powerful as you can be, because, you will only know me for so many years, right? You have your life. Life may bring you in interesting areas. So in the long or short time that you know me and are aware of me, I want to bestow as much wisdom as I can. So no matter what corner of the earth you find yourself in, you're going to have skills you'll never forget and you'll know how to use. So that is available on Patreon, these subscriptions. And I'm also on YouTube, Health Thyself. Please like, click, share, subscribe, everything and more. We're trying to grow the channel. It's doing quite well, but we want to see 10,000 people. We're over halfway there, right? Just under 6,000 subscribers. So won't you kindly subscribe and help me accomplish my dream of 10,000 YouTube subscribers? Because what a fun feeling that is. So join the YouTube. We do regular videos. We post astrology readings every day that are like 3 minutes in length. You can find out what the heck's going on in the day. I give it myself. I do a lot of research on it. So it's all on the stars too. It's not like, your Jupiter is in the third house. It's not that. It's like, hey, this star is active. This is what it does. So prepare yourself in this way. I like to think of it as a spiritual weather forecast. So, if you need to wear an astral raincoat or, whatever. So that's there on the YouTube. We also have daily Ryoka clips that are shared, very powerful ones. We try to find the best of the best. And we also sometimes just give away our live streams and our paid events. We just dump it on YouTube. We're like, enjoy, everyone. So subscribe there. You'll get lots of free goodies. And if you are like me, free goodies are for you. So enjoy. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us. This has been so much fun. I don't want to get off, but I don't want to be that guy that stagnates our departure. But I love you all. And Rob, thank you for having me on, man. Absolute blast. I could, again, do this for hours. This is a great thing.
Well, I appreciate you, brother, and I love you too, and I always love our time together. And if you guys are interested in checking out either of the two events that me and Tyler both will be attending, Mount Shasta 1 week from now, either online or in person, you can go back to the description. The link will be there in the description of any place you're seeing it live or any place you listen to on archive. We're going to have that link available for both events. And also, if you're going to be in live only in Connecticut, in Madison, that one's an in-person only. Link is in the description. Love you guys. Thank all of you for being here. I will not be here next Wednesday or the Wednesday after, and I could not get pre-recorded shows done. So you're going to hear some silence. Maybe I'll find an old one and pop it back up if possible before I leave. Or who knows, maybe a synchronicity will happen where I could record 2 in a day and have something for you. But if not, I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Love you all so much. Thank you for coming, guys. Thank you again, brother. We'll see all of you guys next week here on the other side. Love you guys. Good night.